Yo, what's good everyone, I'm the Mouth of the South, welcome back to the channel, and this is the first ever album review that I'm doing, and it's for one of my favourite deathcore bands, Darko. Now that clip you heard just then was one of my favourite songs off their newest EP, which just dropped today as of recording, which is rightfully called Darko. The song itself is one of my favourite deathcore songs of all time, and also it's an absolute banger of a track, and it's one of the standouts of the album. So if you don't know who Darko are, then firstly, why the fuck are you on this video? But secondly, they are a deathcore group from, I believe, the Canadians, featuring Baby J of Emmure and also Tom Barber of Chelsea Grin, ex-Lorna Shore. And it's basically their solo project. I believe that Josh, he handles all of the guitar, bass and drums, whilst Tom does the lyric writing and the vocals. This is only their, I guess you'd call it their first full release, with Part 1 Death Mask being an EP of sorts. I know this is kind of being labelled as an EP as well, but it feels a lot more like an album. It's 45 minutes long, it's 11 tracks long, which is longer than most of your guys' dicks. But not much longer than what your mum is used to getting. And I've got to say, on the whole, the album is pretty fucking good. Now, I am a little let down. I do feel like the album itself was a bit of a letdown compared to the singles, and let me explain why. So the album itself, as I said, consists of 11 songs, of which we had already heard 4. Insects, Pretenders, Pale Tongue, Mars Attacks, 5 even, because we also had Donna. So we'd already heard pretty much half of the album. And I've got to say, they're pretty much the standout tracks. Every track on this album is good, but those 5 tracks are elite, with the exception being The Last of Us, which is a track that we hadn't heard before yet. And it's fucking sick. It's definitely one of the better songs on the album. But again, with those 5 tracks being so elite, I feel like the rest of the album is almost playing catch up with it. And I feel like maybe they released too much of the best stuff. I feel like if they only released Insects, Pretenders, and I don't know, like Fiend Dream or Praise the Sun or something like that, then we maybe would have been in for something a little more like the surprises of Mars Attacks and Pale Tongue and stuff would have been very, very welcome. But instead what we get is a very good album with very good songs. I'm not saying any of the songs on the album are bad at all. I'm just saying that with how amazing the singles were and what we heard in the build-up to the album itself didn't necessarily follow up or live up to the hype that the singles had quite promised. Having said that though, the album does have a lot of high points. I previously mentioned the song The Last of Us, which is one of the better Darko songs on this album. It really feels like one of the elites like the singles. It has a lot of chunky, heavy stuff. It's got some really nice rhythmic stuff going on in it as well. Josh is doing a lot of weird guitar stuff that happens a lot. Tom on this album is really standout. He's really playing with what he can do vocally quite a bit. And I feel like this track itself just really, really lends itself to the Darko sound. Like, there's everything you want from a Darko song, like, just molded into this, and I really fucking like it. Another standout for me is Daniel featuring Courtney LaPlante of Spiritbox, and also Johnny Reeves from another band. So 3 vocalists on 1 track, and do you know what? It wasn't as heavy as I was expecting, but I think that's a good thing. Tom's really expanding his range, and it seems like a lot of deathcore singers after Phil Bozeman really started to sing on songs. I feel like a lot more people have been accepting of singing in deathcore and like open to experimenting with it. Eddie Hamida did it. That went well. But then Alex Terrible has also done it. Tom's done it. Phil's done it again. And it tends to work really well when it's done right. Notice how I say when it's done right. Eddie! But this song is really, it feels like, I guess you could almost call it a ballad. Because it has some really nice slow elements to it. Tom's voice is actually really, really good on this. And when the screams start to get involved, there's no real growls. It's a lot of like just heavy place distortion belting, which is really nice. A lot of fry screams going on in there as well. And I feel like it really works well with the blend of the track, and overall it adds to a really great sounding song, and every vocalist on here really gets to shine and have their moment. Also, Josh does some awesome shit on the drums during Courtney's, or just before Courtney's verse, and I'll play that for you right now. Come on, you just don't get that much nowadays. It's fucking sick. Another great track is the closer, Darko. My only complaint about this track is just as it feels like it's starting to get going and you're really starting to like feel it, it suddenly stops. It feels like it comes to a close very quickly, and then we have quite a large chunk of outro, which I'm all for outros in songs as long as they're not 5 minutes long, which, to be fair, this isn't. But at the same time, I feel like just as this song is starting to like run its pace and starting to get going, it just cuts itself short. So just instead of being 3.5 minutes, I feel like this could have been an easy 4.5 minutes. And considering it's the name of your band, like the band's called Darko, the album's called Darko, the song's called Darko, I feel like this song really needed to encapsulate everything that Darko are and everything they can do. And I feel like it does that to an extent, but again, just sells itself short slightly. Now, the opening two tracks, Splinter Cell and Fiend Dream, are very good, but at the same time, they are just by the books in terms of Darko songs. They could quite easily be put on Part 1 Death Mask, and I don't think many people would have noticed the difference. I feel like these songs just needed a little bit of extra spice to them to really just push them into that next fucking level and really just, like, drive home, yo, this is the album. Like, you need to start the album so strongly, and I feel like it starts it off well, but it doesn't quite get going until Pretenders kicks in. Now, Darko are known for their kind of jazzy side of things at times. Some jazz, some blues. They also throw in a lot of nice kind of instrumental pieces that are just like their own little segments, little skits and stuff that work really well. They worked really well on Part 1 Death Mask, and we have one on this album. It's called If This Is Forever. Now, it's nearly 5 minutes long, and it's the longest track on the album, and it's too long. I really like this track until it starts to hit the 3rd minute. Once it starts to hit the 3rd minute, and you're still just kind of repeating the same bluesy ostinato that you've been doing the entire way through, with very little variation, I feel like it starts to get a little, right, you've overstayed your welcome now, come on, can we hear something else? And as I say, coming in at nearly 5 minutes, I feel like it does just overstay its welcome a little bit too long, and I feel like that time could have been dedicated to Darko, for example. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad song. I really like it. I really like the atmospheric, bluesy kind of feel to it. Really is it gives you a chance to take a breath, and it really is like a nice palate cleanser almost before the final brutality that is Darko. But at the same time, I do feel like, as I've said before, just overstays its welcome a little bit. Like, it just needs a little bit of fine tuning. Sometimes you just need the editor to go, okay, do we need this final 2 minutes? Overall, I think the album is pretty fucking solid. However, I do believe that we were almost sold a bit of a pipe dream when it came to the singles, because they were so good and they were so elite that it feels like the rest of the album is playing catch up. It's lacking something ever so slightly. But overall, a really good album. There are definitely some standout tracks on this album, and it's definitely a great album, and I feel like Darko are they've really found their footing on this one, and I feel like on the next album and stuff they bring out, they will really, like, grab it by the bollocks and just fucking run with it, and I hope that's the case. So overall, my score for this album would be an A ranking. Would be an S ranking, but it's just lacking a little bit for me. Other people may not find it that way, and this is by no means an attack on the band or anything like that. It's just my opinion, and I feel like the singles were almost too good for what the album was. Anyways, that is it from me today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please like, share, subscribe. Just note things in the comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the album and every single track on this album. You've been wonderful people. I've been the Mouth of the South, and as always, you guys are the real motherfucking heroes. I'm out of here, y'all!